Paano kung hindi?
Several historians report that Rizal retracted his anti-Catholic ideas through a document. For decades, the authenticity of Jose Rizal's retraction documents has raised issues, skepticism, and heated debates among those who seek to know the truth regarding this controversy. However, the lack of evidence and different statements by significant people involved have only contributed to the complications and uncertainty which end this fiery argument. In 1935, 39 years after Dr. Rizal's execution, the Catholic Church found in their archives what they claimed to be the original document of Dr. Rizal's retraction. Dr. Ricardo Pascual sought permission from the Archbishop to examine the document. However, Father Pio P., a Spanish Jesuit, reported that as early as 1907, the retraction of Rizal was copied verbatim and published in Spain, and reprinted in Manila. Father Manuel Garcia, who found the original document, also copied it verbatim. At least 4 texts of Rizal's retraction have surfaced. The 4th text appeared in El Imparcial on the day after Rizal's execution. It is the short formula of the retraction. The remarks given by Hell 1965, it is nonetheless true that this testimony is impressive. It cannot be dismissed, as some have tried to do, with a few sarcastic comments. The argument from testimony as well as the arguments as a whole can be better judged only after weighing this evidence over against the arguments rejecting the retraction.
The retraction document is said to be a forgery. As we have noted, the document plays a significant part on both sides of the debate. There are 4 prongs to the case against the document itself. First of all, there is the matter of the handwriting. To the date, the only detailed scientific study leading to an attack upon the genuineness of the document is that made by Dr. Ricardo R. Pascual of the University of the Philippines. Shortly after the document was found, a study which he incorporated in his book Rizal Beyond the Grave. Taking as his standard some half-dozen unquestioned writings of Rizal dating from the last half of December 1896, he notes a number of variations with the handwriting of the retraction document, the following being the most significant ones according to the present lecturer. The slant of the letters in the standard writings gives averages several points higher than the average yielded by the retraction document, and perhaps more significantly, the most slanted letters are to be found in the document. There are significant variations in the way individual letters are formed. With reference to the signature, Pascual notes no less than 7 differences, one of the most significant being indications of stops, which, says the critic, are most naturally explained by the fact that a forger might stop at a certain point to determine what form to make next. There are marked similarities in several respects between the body of the retraction and the writing of all 3 signers, Rizal and the 2 witnesses, thus serving to point to Pascual's conclusion that this is a one-man document.
A second prong directed against the authenticity of the document itself is based on the principle of textual criticism. Several critics, beginning so far as I know with Pascual, have noted differences between the text of the document found in 1935 and other versions of the retraction, including the one issued by Father Balaguer. I am now engaged in a major textual study of my own, which consists first of all in gathering together all available forms of the text. The one form is represented by the document discovered in 1935 and certain other early records of the retraction. 2 phrases in particular are to be noted. In line 6, Iglesia Católica, and in line 10, La Iglesia. The other form of the text is much more common, beginning with the text of Balaguer published in 1897. In place of Iglesia Católica in line 6, there is the single word Iglesia, and in place of La Iglesia, there appears La Misma Iglesia. There also tend to be consistent differences between the 2 types of the text in the use of capital letters. The second form also claims to be a true representation of the original.
A third argument against the genuineness of the retraction document, which which also applies to the retraction itself, is that its content is in part strangely worded. Example, in the Catholic religion, I wish to live and die, yet there was little time to live, and also Rizal's claim that his retraction was spontaneous. Finally, there is the confession of the forger. Only Runis has this story. He and his co-author report an interview with a certain Antonio K. Abad, who tells how on August 13, 1901, at a party at his ancestral home in San Isidro, Nueva Ecija, when Abad was 15, a certain Roman rook told how he was employed with the Friars earlier that the same year to make several copies of retraction document. The same rook had been previously employed by Colonel Funston to forge the signature of the Revolutionary General Lacuna on the document which led to the capture of Aguinaldo. Runis has also included a letter dated November 10, 1936, from Lorenzo Ador Dionisio, former provincial secretary of Nueva Ecija, who was also present when Rook told this story and confirms it.
Another evidence that proves that Dr. Rizal did not retract is what when he legally signed the document, one of his terms was to be with Josephine Bracken, which the Catholic Church says that they were a wedding day before Rizal was executed. However, there were no evidences of public records or a marriage certificate of Dr. Rizal and Bracken to prove that he was wed and did retract. If Dr. Rizal did so, his family would have known of it immediately because he would have told them the truth in his communication letter to them and when they saw him before he was executed, but there were no mentions of his retraction. And that is why the family was seeking the original document because they do not believe that Dr. Rizal did retract all of his life's works. Upon knowing of what Dr. Rizal did, his family requested to see the original document so that they can verify whether it was his handwriting or not, and yet the Jesuit priest said that they lost the document. In 1935, 39 years after Dr. Rizal's execution, the Catholic Church found in their archives what they claimed to be the original document of Dr. Rizal's retraction. Dr. Ricardo Pascual sought permission from the Archbishop to examine the document. He identified the inconsistencies in the handwriting and the format of the document, that it was not of Dr. Rizal's own way of writing, and he concluded that the document is but a forgery. In the case of the authenticity of the document alone, it is already doubtable whether it was really legitimate or more if it really existed. The second main line of argument against the retraction is the claim that other acts and facts do not fit well with the story of the retraction. Those most often referred to by writers beginning with Hermenegildo Cruz in 1912 are as follows. The document of retraction was not made public until 1935. Even members of the family did not see it. It was said to be lost. No effort was made to save Rizal from the death penalty after his signing of the retraction. The usual rebuttal is that Rizal's death was due to political factors, and with this the religious authorities could not interfere.
Rizal's burial was kept secret. He was buried outside the inner wall of the Paco Cemetery, and the record of his burial was not placed on the page for entries of December 30th, but on a special page where at least one other admitted non-penitent is recorded. Perhaps others, the evidence is conflicting. It is asked by the defenders of the retraction, how else could an executive felon be treated? Perhaps the ground outside the wall was sacred, also, or could have been specially consecrated. To the top rebuttal, Rizal's Christian burial certificate was discovered on May 18, 1935. In the very same file with the retraction document. The penmanship is admitted by all to be by an amanuensis. Whether the signature is genuine is open to a question. There is no marriage certificate or public recorded of the marriage of Rizal with Josephine Bracken. To say that these were not needed is not very convincing. Finally, Rizal's behavior as a whole during his last day at Fort Santiago and during the last 24 hours in particular does not point to a conversion, whether written during the last 24 hours or somewhat earlier. Rizal's ultimo adios does not suggest any change in Rizal's thought. The letter which Rizal wrote during his last hours do not indicate conversion or even religious turmoil. In the evening, Rizal's mother and sister Trinidad arrive, and nothing is said to them about the retraction, although Father Balaguer claims that even in the afternoon, Rizal's attitude was beginning to change, and he was asking for the formula of retraction. It is all well and good to point out that all above happened prior to the actual retraction. A question is still present in the minds of many.
The third chief line of argument against the retraction is that it is out of character. This argument has been more persistently and consistently presented than any other, beginning with the anonymous leaflet of December 31, 1896. It has been asserted or implied in every significant statement against the retraction since that time. It has seemed to many, including the present lecturer, that the retraction is not in keeping with the character and faith of Rizal, as well as inconsistent with his previous declarations of religious thought.
The Masons, on their part, remained adamant in their stand and refused to assent to the arguments and evidence presented by pro-retraction advocates, since there was no new evidence or primary sources presented. The debates during the post-war era were mostly philosophical and interpretative in nature.
E paano kung